Hello everybody, welcome to Tuesday's Rory Story Cube. Of course I've got my coffee here, which of course I need in order to be creative and all that sort of thing. Here is a bag with little story cubes. I'll just grab them so you know what they look like. I showed a few of them yesterday, yesterday. Oops. These are all the ones I got. So I've had to mark the area where you're going to be able to see things because I wasn't quite sure where we're going to be looking at. At least where I should be looking at. Let's see, this should be your direction, your line of view? I think it is. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 9 of these, any of them, and that's why I tend to put in a little baggie so I don't know which ones I'm grabbing. Then I'm going to roll them, about 4 and 5 each time, and then we're going to see what we get, and then we're going to make a little story out of that. I don't know why I'm shouting, because my microphone's right over here, even though the camera's a little further away than I'm used to. Right, here we go. I'm going to put them all back in my bag, and then we'll see what we can make out of it. It would be funny if you, after I roll the dice, take a look at the numbers, pause the video, the sides, pause the video, and then take a look if you can come up with a story, and then see if it matches what I've come up with. Anyway, I'm just going to grab 9 of them. This is 3, and this is also 3, and this is 2. Plus 1 makes 3. There we go. So these are the ones we're going to work with, but we haven't rolled them yet, so we don't know what we're going to do. It's going to make quite a bit of noise, so I'm going to try to not roll them too loudly. There. These over here. Oh. Alright, so we have what looks like a planet of sorts, magical wand. That's your first 4 ingredients. This looks like an ogre and an arrow. Alright, so we have 5 more to roll. Let's take a look what we get. A flashlight, an ambulance, a key, a harp, I believe it's a harp, and the guy who accosted you across the river Styx. Alright, now let's take a look. We need to make a story out of this. And that means I'm going to take a quick look to see what I've got here. Key. Alright, I'm going to set some things aside here just to kind of start off. Okie dokie. Right, it's gonna be all over the place, and the object of the game, of course, is not to make great stories. It's just to have fun while combining all these different dice. I'm putting them aside over here because I'm going to starting off with one in particular. I'm going to start off with this guy. This is our friend. His name is George, and he's got a club, as you can see, but he's not very happy because all he has is a club, and he's like very uncivilized, and he would like to go to somewhere very nice, like this particular place right here. I don't know if you can see that. That is an interstellar city floating around in space. He wants to go there, but he can't go there because he is in the middle of nowhere and he has no technology whatsoever, but he knows someone who might. So he goes to his friend who has a boat, which is, of course, is much more advanced than having a club and a loincloth, and he says, Frank, I'd like to get to an interstellar city. Well, says Frank, that's going to be a bit of a problem because we're in the middle of nowhere right here. But I know a place, a cave, where you can find, say, a magic wand. But of course you'll have to go through a certain set of doors, and it's going to be difficult, and maybe you shouldn't try it because it's going to be way too difficult for you. I don't think you'll be able to understand what's going on most of the time over there. I'm going to take a sip here. Alright, so he says, you know what, Frank? Forget about that. I'm going to do it anyway because I know you don't think very much of me. You don't think very highly of me, but I know how to get there because I've heard of this cave. I just never wanted to enter because it was too far away and I couldn't be bothered. Alright, so he grabs his car because he does have that apparently. And it's got a red mark on the side. I wasn't quite sure what that was when he found it abandoned somewhere with its lights flashing. So he just took it with him and he had no idea what it was. Never mind though, he drives over to the cave and it's kind of dark in there, so he grabs his flashlight, which was in the back conveniently, because even though he is a caveman of sorts, he doesn't know how to look at or see in the dark. He doesn't have night vision, so he needs a torch. Goes inside with a torch, and eventually he comes across a trap. At least he trips over something, and suddenly an arrow just shoots out from the side, like, oh my god, this is going to be difficult. At least I know that I'm in the right cave now, because if this just was any if this was any odd cave, then there wouldn't be traps all inside here because there'd be nothing to protect. So, gotta look out, but I also need to keep in mind that I'm in the right place. I need to persevere. So this goes on for about half an hour. He keeps dodging things and all that sort of thing until he hears music. coming from somewhere off to his left. So he takes his torch along, of course, and he goes down the hall. I like to move the things around when I'm talking about things. And eventually he's confronted with a harp which is just hanging out in the middle of the air, playing by itself. Looks pretty magical, but he was pretty sure that Frank wasn't talking about that particular magical item when he said that he needed to go here in order to get into space. But, he doesn't have anything else going on over there. And he decides to try and take it, so he grabs it out of the air, looks at it, it stops playing immediately because he doesn't know how to play. But when he accidentally strikes a chord, a door appears, and in order to get through that door he needs a key, but he has no idea what it is, or where it is. So he takes a look at the lock and he goes, you know what, if I just bend this here and do a bit of that, then eventually I might have something here. So he does that, he completely reshapes the harp, he pretty much mangles it, and though it's not quite a normal harp, it does actually bend under his enormous strength, because he doesn't have brains, but he does have some muscles, so eventually it kind of looks like a key, and he jams it into the lock, and lo and behold, you wouldn't believe it, but it fits, and the door opens, and behind it there is a magic wand. And he doesn't really know what it is, he doesn't really know where it wants to go either, but he says, "Magic wand, I don't know how you work, but please, I'd like to go to an interstellar city." And so it was that eventually he ended up in space, and he couldn't breathe because it was actually an interstellar city of an alien species which breathed hydrogen instead of carbon, or no, what I'm saying is oxygen, and so eventually he died, but he did get his wish. So that was poor George. Right, a bit of a all over the place story, but that was the first one. I'm gonna go and grab the next set of dice. I wonder what your story sounded like. Probably it was a little bit more coherent than mine. Who knows though, it's a bit of a all over the place type of thing. We're gonna grab some new dice. And we do this, what, 2, maybe 3 times until I get tired of it. 1, 2, 3. I got 5 of them already. Cool. Alright, let's see if... oh, Frank is back. Or no, George, rather. And this is for... great. Wonder if we're gonna see our favorite friend. Is he here today? No, he's not on one of these dice. He'll be here someday, I think. Maybe, maybe not. No, he's not on any of these dice. Alright, fine, we're gonna go and see what we can get from these guys. Because these blue ones are a different set. You can buy different sets, like this one's magical, or what I'm saying, medical, because of the band-aids and all that sort of thing. These are interstellar, I believe. There we go, we have a band-aid, you have a box with things. There's a flower, I'm not sure what this is, this is just random stuff. I think this is one of the original 9 that you get in the orange box. This is a TP, which I believe you also get from the regular 9. We still have to roll 5 more dice. Oops, here's a forest, always my personal favorite. This looks like a telescope. This is a minotaur, always useful. A dice, because, or a die rather. And here is the galaxy all by itself. There you go, fantastic. Alright, so we have a whole bunch of stuff which may or may not be related, but I tend to go for traveling stories, because that is the funnest thing to do. At least you can encounter things while you're traveling. So, I'm gonna grab a few of them really quickly. Once upon a time in the forest, there was a teepee. There you go. And it was located somewhere in the universe, like most things are. So, in this teepee lived a minotaur. He wasn't very happy in this teepee, because mostly minotaurs tend to live in a cave or in a maze or something like that. Mazes, right? They live in mazes. And he wasn't quite sure what he was doing in the teepee, but, oh yeah, I did remember that actually. He had a gamble with one of his friends. He was like, hey, if you win this round of dice here, I'll let you have my teepee, and I'll go live in your maze. That sounds like a good deal, right? And he's like, yay, I can win a teepee, I can go camping, and then he won, and eventually lost his home, and, well, he's still not a tent, so he's sort of not homeless, and kind of was. I don't know if you've ever tried to live in a tent for a long period of time, but it's not quite living in a house. So anyway, he's there in his one teepee, and he's like, you know what? I want to become a scientist, because why not? I'm already so good at logic, maybe I should become a scientist, because one day I got a wound, and I knew how to patch that up, and I did it in such a manner that the wound stopped bleeding immediately, and it was cool, alright? And I also know something about flowers. I don't know where I'm going with this, but he knows something about flowers, alright, fine. So he says, you know what, I'm gonna go to town, but if I walk into town, they're probably going to refuse me. So he sat around for a while, and he thought of an idea, and it came to him in the shape of a box, which he found somewhere in a compost heap. You know what he said? I'm gonna go mail myself. That sounds like a good idea. And so he did, and somebody miraculously actually came and picked up the mail, even though nobody really came up to pick up the mail in the forest normally, but they found this box sitting outside the teepee, and they were like, you know what, let's just do this person a good or a solid, let's send it off somewhere. So he sent himself or got mail to the nearest town, and there of course the people had no idea what to do with this guy because there's a minotaur in a box. What the hell are we going to do with this guy? So they sent him to a lab, and initially he thought that was a good idea because if he was in a lab he could surely become a scientist, because scientists tend to hang out in labs and all that sort of thing, along with people who work in labs and rats and all that sort of thing. But eventually it turned out that he was just a research subject, and occasionally he got wounded because they tend to cut people up and all that sort of thing. So it wasn't exactly a great day for him, but still he managed to get part of his dream come true, right? Confusing people, I don't know. Alright, that's that one. And I like buying all the different sets that make no sense when you put them together, because then you get all sorts of weird stories. And that's kind of what this is about. So I'm going to grab a few more. Just going to do one more story. I have 4 dice. There's Little Red Riding Hood. And I have 4 more dice. I need 1 more. It's going to be this one. There. And I see my favorite die is here, with Mount Olympus on it. Let's see. Oh, it's this guy as well. We got the same. This is the 3rd time we've had him. We had this one and then this one. And now maybe this one. Who knows? We shall see. But we haven't seen our imp friend yet. The one I said that we got most every time. Alright. There. That looks like a baby thing. Satellite. Turtles. Always good. A fountain of youth. Papa. And this looks like Zeus with a bolt. This guy looks angry. This looks like toxic waste. This one's asleep. And this is, if you can see that, the Trojan horse. There you go. You don't have to actually use these as Trojan horses. You can just say this is somebody's horse, a knight's horse, or whatever it is. It's a nice horse. But if you want to use it as a Trojan horse, there it is. It's your Trojan horse. Let's see what we can do with these things. I'm going to get a sip of coffee while I think about this. Okay, so shall we do? Well, let's start with the Trojan horse. The Trojan horse was offered up to Troy, I believe it was Troy, while everybody was asleep. We know this much, right? So when they found it outside their gate, they brought it in, or rather they brought it in and then they went to sleep, right? Because they hid until nighttime, and then all the evil people came out, and then they went and attacked people, and that made certain people very upset. But eventually they ended up winning the war, or at least conquering the town. And after a while, people just settle down there. Soldiers do not always go home after a war. They tend to stick around, and some of them have kids, so they started to propagate, have families, all that sort of thing. And eventually, let's see now, we are several millennia later, somebody dropped a nuclear bomb on Troy. Because why not? I mean, they were in another war, and people had seen on the radar that their defense system was down, so they dropped a nuke. And that made Zeus, among others, fairly unhappy because it was still one of his favorite towns. Because Mount Olympus didn't show up this time, so we had to do with Troy. Either way, so he's very unhappy, so he went and looked for the guy who dropped the bomb, and he turned him into a turtle. Because he can. It's Zeus, you know. So, and then I have a fountain left. This guy was fairly disgruntled with having been turned into a turtle. Of course, as a turtle, he couldn't talk to anybody. So instead, he sat outside this fountain to drink some water, and occasionally he'd take a little bath. But people weren't quite sure what the turtle was doing there, and eventually they shipped him off to someplace else, like a natural reserve or something else, I don't know. And many, many years later, he became intelligent, and eventually he learned science, because why not? And he built his own Trojan horse, because he figured, you know what, it's been so many years since that happened in this town, I'm pretty sure they don't remember that. But people did sort of remember that, because they have museums and all that sort of thing, even though I don't think Troy actually had a Trojan horse happening. I'm not quite sure if that was the thing that actually happened. Who knows? It might have. And so they just left him there and let him outside the gate, and then they went to sleep. And he sat there for all of eternity, disgruntled. And the reason why he didn't die, even though he was a turtle, is because turtles, first of all, have a really, really long lifespan, or tortoises, I'm not quite sure which one it is. And of course, Zeus had cursed him that he wouldn't die. He would live forever as a turtle inside of his Trojan horse. There. Well, that made no sense at all. But some people get disgruntled and then they start dropping nuclear bombs and building the horses of Troy. Great. Trojan horses. So that was Rory's story cubes. Make sure to leave your stories in the comments below. I told you to pause the videos whenever I have all these lined up. You can still do that, of course, when I've got them here. And take a look at the symbols, see what you see, and I'll hear your stories. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching, and bye-bye for now.